I studied Japanese at my university for 2 years at a college level. Okay. So when I get here, yeah, even me, I'm like, okay, maybe, I can refresh some things in my brain, get used to it. It's not going to be easy, right? I know how language works. It's not going to be easy. I know that. I don't know anything. Like square one. I'm talking when I study Japanese, it is square one. Like the 2 years that I studied Japanese were worthless. So, this is going to be a video on how not to study Japanese, how useless things that you do, just don't waste your time on it. Just forget about it. Focus on the important things, and I'm going to tell you how not to study Japanese. Let's go. Hello, everyone. My name is Tori, and I live in Japan. This is a new channel here on YouTube, so please subscribe. And if you have subscribed already, welcome back to my videos. I make new ones every single week. So I was not able to study Japanese in a formal setting for most of my life. Like it was not offered in high school. I didn't have money to take extra classes on the side. Nobody speaks Japanese where I'm from. So it was all self-taught. It was all self-learned. And then I decided to teach English in Italy, and I put Japanese aside and I learned Italian, and it was really fun. I love Italian. I studied French in high school, so I can read it and write it okay. But Italian is what I speak better. So Japanese is totally different. And when I went to college, I was so gung-ho about learning Japanese. I was like, let's go, I'm going to get straight A's. And I did actually. I got straight A's in all of my classes. So to start with, when you learn a language, the two most important things when you're starting is input and vocabulary. You need to be building input and vocabulary every day. I'm talking about listening every single day, like for hours. No subtitles, like really active listening, just doing your best, not understanding anything, but just trying. You also need vocabulary. You need really study your ass off with words. And you need to review. You need to review all of that every day. In my Japanese language class, we had none of that. As a matter of fact, I received almost zero input of Japanese when I first started learning Japanese. We quickly reviewed katakana, hiragana, and as soon as my teacher spoke a word, right, as soon as she said, this is a grammar point, this is a word, we were expected to memorize it immediately, and then we never visit it again. The word would barely come up. It was so difficult. And the 2 years that I was learning Japanese, I barely learned a single bit of kanji. I recognize only kanji that is the most used, like watashi, day, just really, really basic stuff. But I've never learned that in class. I had to research that on my own, which is insane. So I don't want to dictate how you learn a language because frankly, everybody learns differently. We have our strengths, we have our weaknesses, and there's four, I want to say the quadfecta of Japanese language learning or any language learning. And the first is, of course, listening, comprehension, writing comprehension, reading comprehension, and speaking. So most people, they really just want to go straight to the speaking and the listening. And that is fine. If that's where you want to be at, that's fine. But if you want to actually learn a language to fluency, the reading and writing are extremely important. So most of my test taking, whatever, was just reading hiragana and translating it to English. Yeah, that's right. We were translating to English. On our test, I'd be giving it a Japanese sentence, and I'd have to translate that to English. So I'd always be a little off. And every time I was a little off, it was wrong. And I'd tell my teacher, I'd be like, I've been trying to translate things in my head. And she'd say, no, don't translate to English. That's really not a good way to learn. In my head, I'm like, why am I being tested on this? So when you're learning Japanese, do not focus on translation. Focus on making the connection of just being able to say it in real time. For example, if you're watching anime, right? The certain things that they're going to say over and over again, you're going to pick up as that is how you say uso. Is you're a liar. Uso, right? You're just going to pick that up. If you watch One Piece, uso, And so you want to focus on building those connections with real world things. At my university, there was none of that. And throughout me being at university, my professor, they constantly gave the worst learning advice I have literally ever seen from any teacher anywhere. They said, don't worry about kanji. Bullshit. They said, don't watch anime. Watch anime. They said, they would often generalize all of Japanese society. I feel like the most things that I learned actually from that class was like her insights about Japanese society. And all of them, I swear to God, all of them have been so wrong, and they've only given me insane anxiety when I've been in Japan, because her experience, she chalked up to being all of Japan, and that's simply not true. You can't generalize people, as I've said before. But anyway, one of the things that you want to keep out for when you're learning Japanese is your textbook. So everybody uses the Genki textbook, and that's fine. That's brilliant. Perfect. Everybody complains about how you can't really learn kanji with that. Learn kanji with it. But if you have the will, the focus, the stamina to get through all of the Genki 1 and 2 textbooks, you have a pretty good grasp of Japanese basic grammar. From there, just like keep on working on those vocabulary, input. But my school, we learned off of Japanese, the spoken language. And I wish I were lying when I say that there was no katakana, no hiragana, no kanji at all whatsoever in this whole book. The whole thing was all romanji, and it made absolutely no sense. This book, it was like, I want to say 15 lessons or so. And it taught you basics, kind of. But instead of building up on like small things, right? Small basic Japanese grammar, I was learning keigo. I was learning business talk. And it was so ridiculous. Like, I remember studying my butt off for a test. And like these tests were unbelievably hard. Like they were stupid hard. I remember studying my ass off for this test. And I was with a group, and they invited a Japanese person to the group to help us study. And he was just looking at our stuff going, we literally never use this. We never say this ever. Like only if you are like at a business meeting of like executives once every 5 years will you ever learn the fucking honorifics level that we were learning. And it was horrible. Like I swear the only time where I was like, wait, I kind of recognize this Japanese was when I was watching Shogun. And they were like using like the ancient Japanese like language in Shogun, the movie. I was like, oh my God, I've never once used a single thing that was in my Japanese textbook. I'm not even, this textbook literally has the Soviet Union. It refers to Russia as the Soviet Union. We did a whole unit on using telephones. I was like, what the hell? This is not conducive to learning Japanese. You need to learn the common words, the common vocabulary at a basic level first. That is, of course that's how you learn. So by the time I was finished with second year, right, with 2 years of Japanese, finally my professor was like, oh yeah, next semester we're gonna do Genki 2, actually. I was like, what? Genki 2? We should already be on Genki 2. What are you talking about? Like, it's so stupid. And of course, there was no review. We never like once went back to a lesson and be like, hey, you remember what happened in this grammar point? We're gonna use it here. Nope, none of that. It was just like, okay, on to the next thing to memorize for a test and then forget about it. And we maybe learned like 20 vocabulary words every like 2 months or so. Yeah, every 2 months, 20 vocab words. That's insane. How are you going to learn anything like that? Ridiculous. And like, honestly, if you don't have like any understanding of a language in depth, like, this is how wa works, is horrible. Don't think about how wa works, guys. When you're first starting, look up what Genki tells you about wa. That's all you need to know. Just like the rest of that will come the more you input, the more you use, the more you try to speak, the more you try to think in said language, the more it will work for you. But wa, if you give me a detailed explanation, it's gonna run over my head if I'm a beginning learner. So one thing that did actually work when I was in college was we would have to memorize a presentation completely in Japanese and present to the class. Now, since we never had any like speaking before or after, this was really, really difficult. but just the process of like memorizing all that Japanese was extremely helpful. So if you are learning, make a little diary, make a little presentation, do as much as you can speaking wise, especially if you don't have anyone to speak with, as you can in Japanese language. And I know it's a little difficult because if you don't have anybody checking your work, you might get things wrong. But chat like AI can help with that, honestly. And there's plenty of apps that you can use as well. So, as I'm studying my butt off every single day and I'm absolutely getting nowhere with this language, it really demoralized me. It really burned me out. I didn't want to study anymore. Even right before coming to Japan, I was like, I don't even know where to start. I don't know what to do. And then I get here and yeah, just as I thought, I don't know anything. I don't know anything. I can't hold any basic conversation whatsoever. But I have been every single day using Wanikani to learn kanji, and that's really helpful. I think, yeah, if you want to learn kanji, and I do recommend this, you you want to learn kanji with the language because the writing system will help you have a baseline to read. And if you can read in Japanese, guys, if you can read in Japanese, then you don't have to translate in your head. I bought the textbook Mina no Nihongo because I'm like, okay, I study my ass off in the grammar. I know the basics. I don't know where I'm at with Genki anymore. So I bought Mina no Nihongo and I've just been going through it completely in Japanese, no instruction. And at first I was like, I don't really know if this is helping me. And then I'm like, wait a minute, I need to not translate to English in my head. So I just clear my thoughts of all English and I just go straight for the Japanese. And it's hard. It's so hard to do that. But I spent like 8 hours doing that one day. And the next day I was like, oh, I can understand things so much more. It's crazy. All it took was 8 hour session. And I was like, I'm only on lesson 4 or 5 in Mina no Nihongo. And yeah, I'm really picking things up so much more. And of course, I have a vocab list. If I hear something and I'm like, I hear that often, I wonder what that means. I look it up. I look up the variations of the word. If a my has 2 words, I'm going to learn it. And yeah, and I keep it in a whole PDF form and I study that every day. And I study it in context. I don't just study Tsumari is the English translation. I study the word until I think I know it well. And then I only put it in a sentence and I learn it in that sentence. So I'm constantly reading. It's not just one word translate, one word translate. You do kind of need that for a lot of things. Don't knock that. You need it. But you need to also learn it in context is really important. Another thing too that I think a lot of universities just destroy your language speaking capabilities in is you are tested so often and how you test your knowledge is actually quite difficult when it comes to language. You can't test what's in your head. So they often translate and you end up if you get something wrong, it's usually based off little tiny details. And in the end, when you're learning Japanese and you're learning any language, you're going to mess up a lot. And, I was so afraid of not getting good grades that I'd be so afraid of messing up. And it's translated now to me being pretty silent. And even if I know the Japanese and I understand it, I'll second guess myself. And you don't want to be in a position where you're constantly second guessing. I'll know how to say something. I'll know what's being said. And I just can't get it out because I'm oh, well, what if it's wrong? What if it's wrong? I remember that one time I switched they and me and it fucking almost flunked me out of the class. I don't want to be thinking about that. So overall from this video, what we learned is don't stress about the little things. Don't use a shit ass textbook. Vocabulary input are the most important. Don't constantly translate to English. Please, get out of that as fast as you can. Don't worry about messing up. And also, and I will add, don't worry about politeness. Don't worry about, I know that you want to learn mutual politeness first. The Moss form, that's where your go-to needs to be. I know a lot of anime uses casual form, and that was the excuse that my teacher used not to watch it, which again was stupid. You want to learn casual form too, but you want to be the most proficient at the mutual respect form because you don't want to accidentally be using casual. I mean, I do it all the time. If I'm being honest, I would accidentally, especially my first month being here, accidentally be oh, I've seen it. And I'd be like, fuck, I could just add a desk to that. Like, why? Like, but usually Japanese people give you a pass. Like, they understand that you're just learning, that you don't really know. Like, just do your best. Do your best with that. But learn the Moss form first. But other than that, don't worry so much about politeness. Like, once you're getting a better grasp of the language, then you can move up to politeness level. But also, don't be afraid of the politeness level. Like, some people like, I understand Japanese, but like, the politeness is just so... Stop. Like, stop being so afraid of that. If you can get up to the point of understanding in general, like, politeness should not be a big deal for you. You will learn it. It is difficult. Yeah, it's a long journey, but ganbare. And another thing, too, that my teacher would constantly make me so scared about was, like, just stressing how you have to be polite. And, like, certain things, like, you are going to be seen as such a piece of shit if you're not the most polite, blah, 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 blah. And it takes away your individuality so greatly when you're constantly focusing on, like, oh my God, did I fuck up? Like, you're going to have to, at some point, when you're in Japan, be yourself. And there's no hiding that. There's no hiding that. Like, the mask, it will wear thin. You gotta just be yourself. And maybe yourself can be improved. I'm not saying that, like, you can't change. You can't, like, bend some things about yourself to fit in some ways. But yeah, it's gotta, from the core of it's gonna be hard to get rid of. So just be yourself. And chill out, Forgive yourself for making mistakes. The way that she would talk about how Americans were so rude in Japan, despite her also being American. Yeah, my teacher was not Japanese. The way she would talk about Americans being rude, and then it's like I found that so many Japanese people can also be equally as rude in a different way. And I'm not saying like this is like Japanese people are rude, Japanese people are mean, Japanese people whatever. I'm saying that like we have miscommunication, we have differences in like certain, things that we do. And we shouldn't be afraid of that. Like if you want to come to a country, if you want to live in another country, you're not expecting that, you're not expecting to be uncomfortable. Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing for real? And yeah, and as far as learning the kanji, the reason why I highly recommend you learn the kanji is because like it is so hard to read full hiragana. It is so hard. Like, I know you think it's easy now. You're like, oh, well, you don't know hiragana? I do. But picking up the words, you will understand the grammar when you learn the kanji. You will understand why words, like, have the meaning that they have or have the pronunciation that they have when you learn the kanji. And I'm talking about kunyomi, onyomi, all the forms of the kanji. Learn it. And it will make your reading process very easy. It'll make your understanding of the language more intuitive instead of being like told exactly how, something works in another language. You'll just pick it up. So to all those who think that they can just get by with speaking Japanese without learning the kanji, they don't bother with it. Like, you don't actually know. You're not learning the full language. Like maybe, and that's okay. If you are comfortable in that, that's okay. But you're not getting the full picture. And also, I do recommend, if you watch only anime, maybe also watch other things like news, TV shows, reality shows, dramas. Like, expand your Japanese input, I would say. There's a lot of really good Japanese YouTubers these days that are really funny. So, yeah. But anyway, this is sort of a rant this time, and a story at the same time, as well as giving you advice. I hope that it was helpful. I hope that you do not make the same mistakes that I made. If you are in college right now or in a class right now and you feel like this is what is happening, you're not picking up anything, you're not inputting, you're not doing that, like, I would recommend stopping while you're ahead. I know that's like really hard pill to swallow, but like genuinely go somewhere else to learn. Study yourself even. You will need instruction. Like you can't, I do think that you can go very far with studying yourself, but it is always good to have somebody like a Japanese friend even to help you along the path to make sure you're saying things right and to make sure that you're inputting all the time. But if you're like me, like in my situation, I honestly, I was so happy to finally be learning Japanese at my university that, the first year I just overlooked so many things. And in the last year, I was like, oh my God, I can't do this anymore. I can't. It was going to ruin my it's going to ruin my GPA that was like stellar. I graduated summa cum laude from my university, and I wouldn't have done that if I had continued my Japanese. And it wouldn't have mattered anyway because I didn't learn any Japanese. And I look back on it and I think to myself, I should have quit the first year because I didn't need the second year. Like, it was just such a stressful waste of time. It just put all this stress on me. It took the fun out of learning from me. And you don't want to get that, like, to that point when you're learning a language. And I'm not trying to suggest that it's not going to be hard. You do want to push yourself. You want to get there. You gotta put in that hard work, but make sure that it's paying off. Make sure that it's something that you are invested in. But I am learning Japanese yet again, for the millionth time in a row. This time it's going to work though, because I'm literally living here. I'm doing really well. I have a vocab book. I have Mina no Nihongo, as I mentioned, and I'm taking Japanese lessons. So I will probably update you on my progress little by little here and there. So if you know any languages, if you have any tips for anybody, please leave them in the comments. Is there anything that you found that totally does not work for you and it works for other people? I know wanikani, for example, like, it works for me, but some people absolutely hate it. They can't stand it. So, like, give us some tips, give us some advice in the comments. And if you can relate to me in any way, please tell me your story. I love to hear them. I have a new channel here on YouTube, so I appreciate all of your support, and I have really, really exciting things that I would like to do in the future. And especially after I reach 1,000 subscribers, I will be doing some really fun stuff, hopefully. So please subscribe and comment and like and share and all that good stuff. I really appreciate all the support I've received so far. Thank you so much for making it to the end of this video, for watching. I really appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for listening to my rants. I'm so grateful. I wish you the best. Until next time, bye.